Cool. Hello, everyone. I'm Nick. I work as an iOS developer at Spotify, of course, and I've been working here for almost 4 years now. I'm proud to have been involved in the development of the running feature from the beginning, and I'm here to talk to you about how we developed it, how it works, and hopefully just get like the most interesting parts of how we built it and some of the decisions we made and why. What is Spotify Running? So you see basically the three most important parts of it. We have the overview screen with all the playlists that you can choose and play. The detecting tempo screen, which basically happens when you run. When you begin running. So the app detects how fast you run, well, the tempo of your run. And when that happens, it picks up the right music to play. You can always skip that state because it's if you know your tempo, you can always skip it and you can go directly to what your usual tempo is. Also, when you will notice that you can always change the tempo in the middle of your run. So, of course, that's always useful because you might go up on a hill, for example. You won't have the same tempo. So, and it's easier to do it through that UI. And that has a bit of a story as well, and I will talk about it a bit later in the rest of the presentation. So we worked mainly on 5 innovations. So we have tempo detection, tempo-based curated playlists, original content, recommended for you, and crossfade on the downbeat. It's a lot of things, but I'll go through each one of them. First of all, it's tempo detection. How tempo detection works, we take your phone's accelerometer data, and we process them in real time to find your tempo. This is sounds very simple, maybe, I don't know, but it's not as simple as it may sound. We need to filter out some spurious data. The accelerometer data that we get are not so clean, and we plot the accelerometer data on a curve, and we see different curves. If you run in using your phone in your pocket, you get a different curve than if you have it on your arm or if you hold it in your hand. So the algorithm is smart enough to understand the differences between the positions and the graphs that you get and to still figure out the tempo. On Android as well, we have to account for differences between the accelerometer manufacturer and the device manufacturer. Because we even get different intervals that, you can see, for example, in the graph that we sample, you can get different sampling intervals. You can get like very wide gaps, or you can get very, very small gaps. We have the other thing that we worked on, of course, is the playlists. The playlists are designed to be good for running, and each playlist that we have is hand curated so that each song falls into a specific bucket. So there are actually people that go and through a bunch of tracks and they see, oh, this is 155 beats, and they pick that song and they put it into the specific bucket. The buckets are not as fine-grained as people might suspect, but that's okay because usually they are pretty good. So we have some gaps like this, which might look like it's a big gap. 155 to 160 sounds a bit big, but it's not really. In reality, you get a very good match with how you run if your tempo falls within that bucket. So the other complication with this is that most of the songs that you get most of the songs that actually exist, are 160 beats per minute. So it's very difficult to find, excuse me. Most of the songs that you get are at 160 beats per minute. Actually, 70% of the songs lie between 110 and 130 beats per minute. So to find songs that match how most people run, which is at 160, is really tricky to do. And also, there's another question here. What is a good running song? There is a lot of different things that we need to take into account. For example, cultural affinity. Some songs sound better to run to than some other songs. For example, Eye of the Tiger is probably a better song to run to than some other songs. But also depends on the speechiness, for example, or the silent parts and things like that. So, or the energy of the songs, for example. And we have tools to help curators to pick those songs. So, and this is one type of content that we offer, actually. And some of the playlists that we have are Morning Run, for example, which is songs picked because they have a specific feel to them that make them good for running in the morning. And we have also playlists that are grouped based on their genre. So we have reggae run, for example, electronic moves, etc. We have another category of content that is called original content. And these are a different musical format, shall we say. They're custom-made music, so we actually got composers to write these songs for us. They're split into chapters, and they are almost identical across all tempos. So in comparison with the playlist that you have, you don't get the same songs, of course. You get different kinds of songs because they have different tempos. But these are actually custom-made to sound exactly the same. And you can even, when you switch tempos while you listen to them, you can't even feel the difference unless it's, of course, a huge tempo gap. And they are designed to track your entire run. And they have a specific hypothesis or theme to them. So, for example, these are all the originals that we have. So, for example, we have the Chase, which is, I don't know, I think it's supposed to make you feel a bit stressed and run faster. I'm not sure. But Epic is cinematic and dramatic and has a kind of a feel that you're like in a movie and you run to it. Seasons is classical music, more or less. And Lock the Flow is supposed to be more stable and then less changes and has a constant flow. And we have also some artists like Ellie Goulding, who has had her own idea. She wanted to escape the everyday stresses, and then there is a whole hypothesis behind it anyhow. This is actually the latest original that we released, and you kind of get the idea. We have another kind of content which is recommended for you. This is actually one preset that we offer to most of our users. And it's a special playlist. It's made just for you. And it has, and it's based on a very simple recipe, so we say. So it's music that we know that you like, or music that is very close musically to it. But we only pick the most runnable tracks from that bucket. So it's very good. Of course, we have to be listening to Spotify for some time to be able to give that to you. And of course, all this content has to sort of it matches the tempo, and you have to put it all together somehow. You have everything. You can't just stop a song at the end and start another song, because we don't really want the gap. We don't want the silent parts. We don't want the silent parts at the start and the beginning, and maybe the different energy levels that you get or the tempo variations that you get. We just want to give you the good parts. And what are the good parts of the song? So we try to get like a constant tempo and a constant flow, and that to have no silent parts, no much speechiness, etc., etc. So what do? We analyze all those songs and we get all the downbeats. Now this is a bit complicated, and of course we have machine learning algorithms and stuff like that to analyze all the songs. And we have analyzed all the songs in the Spotify catalog to get all the downbeats. We have some special downbeats, of course, the start and the end, but we also have all the intermediate ones because we want people to be able to skip on the downbeat. And of course, we have the model might not get everything right. So we have a tool called Crossfader that we use to change the downbeats if it's necessary, because we have people listen to that, and we listen to that, and other people listen to that, and we get feedback. We get a lot of feedback, and we tweak the values sometimes. When you listen to this, when you run to this, it's not always obvious that all these things happen. We try to distill the running experience, that you get to the essence of what running is supposed to be and how it should work. And we threw a lot of stuff out, and we just kept the things that complement each other very seamlessly and make running good and fun, and makes the product feels complete. If anything of this would miss, I think the product would feel a bit incomplete, and maybe our users actually, even though they don't notice a lot of these details now, and of course some of this they probably can't know, they would probably notice if, for example, crossfade didn't exist, because they would see the parts that are silent and or skipping the tempo, for example, when you run. And I'm not sure if it was for us it was like the first time we actually used a specific methodology to come to this result. We had some of this technology before. We have people that worked before on these aspects, but actually it was kind of a special process within Spotify. It was, I think, the first time that we tried it with running. But maybe it shouldn't have been, and I'll explain why I say that. We have a mantra at Spotify that is called that says, think it, build it, ship it, tweak it. And we have that plastered in some places in the office, and we sort of believe in it. But very often, because a lot of us work on a lot of legacy stuff, like the playlist feature, for example, is there forever. So we haven't really seen that process from the beginning. But this is actually the path that we followed in this case and worked really well. So we have the think it stage is the product discovery stage. We had a very clear mandate from the start, which was great, because it's always good to have a very sort of narrow focus and a very clear focus to work on. And it was to make running less painful and more fun, and to get our users to experience what we call the runner's high, or the flow. So what is that? When you listen to music while you run, you get the special moment when at some point one of the songs matches how you run, right? I don't know if you felt it, but we feel it sometimes, when we run. And we wanted to replicate this across the entire run. So we had the hypothesis that we can actually achieve this by having a constant level, like a constant tempo in your music, and you could have a very good run, a constant level of euphoria. So we worked on a lot of these things. We didn't innovate for the sake of innovation. If one of the other aspects, I guess, of having a very clear goal is that we were prepared to throw away a lot of that stuff. If beat detection didn't serve the purpose, we would throw it away. We invested a lot of time in it, of course, but we would only keep the things that really matter to the experience. And I left it. So there's one more thing. We had a process that we followed, of course. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Google Design Sprints. So Google Ventures, I think, uses it most of the time. So they had a very, very rigid process where you have a whole week to design like a product, more or less, or the basic idea of a product. So 1 week is not always enough. I think you have to lock people in a room and basically no meetings, no phones, nothing. This is not really possible at Spotify to do, but we used it as a guideline. We used most of the parts of the process, and it worked really well. We didn't stick, as I said, too strictly to it. I can give you an example. The process says that you have to unpack all your ideas in a day. Like, how do you unpack? Like, we have people that worked at Nike, a designer that worked at Nike. We had people that developed the beat detection algorithm in a day, and they're really passionate about that kind of technology and how they run. Like, how do you unpack all your ideas in a day? It's very hard. So we tweaked it a little bit, and it worked. And we did a lot of user research. We did crazy amounts of user research. We never stopped doing it, actually. We refined our ideas. We threw away a lot of stuff. We improved a lot of stuff. We found what was good, what was wrong. And it helped us avoid a lot of serious issues at the beginning, very early on. Yeah, we used both sketches and prototypes, working prototypes. That is very interesting. Most of the usability testing books say don't really build a whole product when you want to do usability testing. But in some cases, you can't really avoid it. You have to. How do you test beat detection? How do you test the content? If people don't run to it, you can't really test it. So we reached a high level of confidence at some point after 5 or 6 months, and then we decided, yeah, we actually want to start building this seriously. No prototype apps anymore. Or that's not entirely true, but so we started focusing on end-to-end user visible functionality. This kind of stems from the idea of elephant carpaccio. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's an agile method. So you take a story and then you slice it to as thin tasks as possible. We tried to do that. I can't say that we were super successful all the time to do this because it's really tricky to do. But this helped us eliminate a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty about timeframes, and focusing on what we're certain about and leaving stuff that we weren't so sure about for later. So it helped us structure our work and our time frames. Every story had the tangible value. We did more user research at the same time. We threw a lot of stuff away that we had. Some of them we had actually implemented and we were sort of thinking of shipping. And of course, at some point we started to realize that some of the things that we wanted to try out, we weren't gonna ship. We didn't have time to try them out. By the way, we use Scrum at Spotify. I don't know if Henrik Nyberg, one of our agile coaches, has done a lot of slides and presentations about that. We use a lot of Scrum, and so this was all done in Scrum sprints. And we had teams in Stockholm and New York working on more or less parallel threads of different stuff, but we had one agile board here in Stockholm. This is a nice photo of somebody actually running in using and looking at the data. So this is also part of the user research we did while we were developing it. Finally, we shipped it. It was a very happy moment for us, a very relaxing moment. And we actually were very happy to see that people actually loved it. So we got very positive tweets from people. People were generally very happy. We got some weird tweets as well. I don't know what bubble wrap has to do with running, but apparently somebody has done that. So I don't know. Looking back, I think it's what my most important takeaways from the whole process was that We started thinking early about how we want to work, but we were flexible and we tweaked it along the way. That's really important. Often agile, agile methodologies, if they work really well if you tweak them. I think if you follow everything, not so well. User research, we did a lot, and I think it's very often people say, we have to stop at some point. I'm not sure when you should stop. I mean, our product is actually still in development in a way. A good product always is. So you never stop doing user research. We had a clear focus on what we wanted to make from the beginning. That's really important. And we were prepared to, we didn't innovate for the sake of it, as I said before, and we were prepared to throw stuff away that were not good or detrimental even. I think also that everybody cared about the product a lot. And that was really important. We had that flexibility. We formed a team that was actually people that went and said, I want to work on running. So the future, lots of great new content is coming up, but I'm not going to tell you what exactly because I'm not allowed, unfortunately. But we have new features coming up as well. Thank you very much. I hope this was illuminating enough of how we worked, and I'm looking forward to the answer and question session that we're going to do later.